Sky Blues pre-season warm-up continued last night when they beat the German non-league side 6-0. We spoke to them earlier on. Wachtendonk. About 500 people watched. It was about 540, did he say, I think? And we've had a text this morning saying, where is Wachtendonk? Because they came in at the last minute, didn't they, to provide that fixture. They're near Dusseldorf, apparently, and not far away from the Dutch border. 40 or so people from the UK were there as well. When the season proper gets underway, of course, the club says they're set to play their home games at Northampton because of the protracted row with the owners of Coventry's Ricoh Arena where they've played until now. If the Sky Blues do move to Northampton, what's going to happen to the Ricoh, and can this be resolved? Can a solution be found which can keep the Sky Blues in Coventry? A lot of people are saying now that is desperately what needs to be done. Let's talk to Peter Knatchbull Hugessen, who's a board member of ACL, the company which runs the Ricoh. He's also on the Higgs Trust as well. He joins us live in the studio. Peter, thanks for your time this morning, for coming in.
Good morning.
Why did you want to come in? Because you said, you feel there are a lot of myths that need dispelling around the situation at the moment. What are prime amongst your concerns then?
I think it's that the whole story, because it's now been going on for so long, there are bits that have become myth because they are not quite accurate. I mean, there's the whole area of food and beverages at the Ricoh, which has been stated quite often by people, Mr. Fisher and others, that this is the real blockage, the real hold-up.
The revenue, they're not getting the revenue from this.
Exactly. Well, the fact is that when the club was on the point of administration in 2003, they sold their shares. They sold their part of the business to the charity. The hope was that they would be able to buy it back before 2005 or in 2006 when they got to the Ricoh. But they didn't. So in a way, that's history. But when you've sold something and had the advantage of that money, to then ask for it for free, the business that you've sold, is quite difficult. And certainly the charity, the trustees, can't give their shares to anybody, let alone a hedge fund. Similarly, the council can't give theirs. So although the whole idea of the build and the whole of the way it was designed so that it was a 365-day-a-year business, and think what that would do to a team under FIFA Fair Play. Absolutely brilliant to have that kind of revenue. But they need to buy it. They can't just have it. And that's one of the myths, that it's there and it's unreasonably being withheld from them.
But would you sell it? I mean, is that what you're saying? Is that that negate? Because the impression that was given, and it's difficult because we sit here in the centre of all of this, and you know certain information, and the football club knows certain information, and we're trying to glean out of conversations that are had very often via us as to what really is going on. But part of the issue was that they felt that there wasn't a negotiation to buy that.
In June of last year, the charity signed a heads of terms agreement with Sisu Capital for them to buy the charity's shares. Nothing happened after that. They went and talked to the city council. The charity wasn't a part of those talks. ACL wasn't a part of those talks. That was a matter between Sisu and the council. We heard nothing more from Sisu. There were a lot of conditions precedent. These are things that are set into an agreement that says these things have got to happen before the deal can go forward. And all of the things that were in the condition precedent were outside the control of the trustees. It wasn't something we could do. The only thing we could have done was walk away. That was not going to happen because the charity would like to be out of ACL, not for any other reason than it wants to reuse that money. We've got a major project at the Drapers Hall and so on. There are other things in Coventry we want to do with the money. We only really got to know what happened during the fans' forums that were broadcast by CWR. And there, Mr. Fisher came out with the fact that they looked at the books and they decided they didn't want to buy it because, as he said, two turkeys, an eagle don't make, or something like that. And then we found that actually they had just walked away. And it might be one of the conditions in that agreement was that they would pay abortive costs, because it costs a charity a lot of money to do something like that. We have to get lawyers, we have to get advice. Trustees cannot act without that. And during the time when CC were purchasing, the charity had to spend out £40,000 on such costs, and that was just lost money, wasted money. And when you think that the sort of grant we give to Coventry Sports Foundation and things like that are around the 20,000, it's a lot of money that just disappears. So one of the things in the agreement was that they would pay any abortive costs if these things out of the charity's control just disappeared. And it was capped at £29,000. When the deal was no longer there, we've asked them for the £29,000, and I suppose people wouldn't be surprised to know that they haven't actually paid it, and we're having to go to the county court. Coming
up to the current day now, and there's a proposal for a CVA, isn't there, to get them out of administration?
There is,
so that they don't go into insolvency. And one of the issues around that is how ACL will vote, because as a creditor you need 75%, I think, don't you, approval from the creditors?
Okay, there's quite a bit in that. Take the first bit. The liquidation would only be, as I understand it, of CCFC Limited, and that, at the moment, until we know what assets it really has nothing but the lease left, because Mr. Appleton, the administrator, has said that he has sold everything that was in it to Otium. And so if there was a liquidation of CCFC Limited, all that would happen is that company would cease to exist. And that does not affect the football club.
Right. The football club is now with Otium, as far as you understand it.
If all the structure of deals that has been set up live, if they don't all fall down and collapse. So you then come back to CVA, and it's actually 50%, because it's the unconnected creditors who really have the say there. And the only unconnected creditors are ACL and the Alan Higgs Centre Trust. And it's on value, and so that is ACL basically have the vote.
So distilling that down, though, you're saying that if ACL vote that down anyway, it makes no difference, because all you're doing is really voting down the shell of a company, and that will go into insolvency. It'll have no impact, will it, on the whole conversation, the whole argument, the whole discussion?
The significant thing in it, there are several significant things. One of them is that if the CVA is voted for, then there is no further investigation of what has happened, where the assets moved in the company. And if you heard, and I know you've reported, Bob Ainsworth's questions and statements in the House of Commons, and there are significant questions of what has happened to the assets that were recorded in the company's accounts between June 2012 and March 2013. They've just disappeared. They've moved. And then there are questions that need to be answered there. If there's a CVA signed, those questions are not answered. Now, there are a lot of people, I think, who are very keen that the CVA is signed.
Right. You're going to vote it down, aren't you, then, by the sound of it? Is that what you're preparing us for?
No, we hadn't. We had a board meeting yesterday. And at the end of that, we said, no, we need to see what is happening during this week. This week is a week of quite intense activity. It's swans. Everything's gliding along serenely on the surface, and underneath the legs are kicking away in the mud and trying to get traction. So no, we as a board, we have not made a decision. There are too many moving parts, and they haven't come to rest yet to see which way it goes.
There is a feeling that your bluff has been called, and that's the move to Northampton is all about that. Is and I suggested this to Tim Fisher. He says he doesn't feel that he's a I think it was a game of chess or a game of poker we likened it to, I can't remember now, but he didn't agree with that. But, still a lot of people on the outside are looking at this and saying it does look like a game of chess or a game of poker. It was all about bluff and counter bluff, and they called your bluff by saying, OK, we found a ground and we're moving, and you're left now with a stadium that is it's no use really for the purpose that it was built. What are you going to do?
That's an interesting one about the empty stadium. I don't think there's been any bluff. We've said all along that we would welcome them back, and even at this stage, we are.
Well, you have with a caveat, haven't you, Peter? I mean, you said you would, and it was very carefully worded. And
yes.
I don't want to get into the plain semantics games, but when you say something like, the club are welcome as long as they are in administration, and people are going, well, what does that mean? Is that sounds like it's an offer but with strings?
It was with a string, absolutely it was, because we couldn't offer it to a party that had no status. However, if we are to accept that the deal does go through, that the share has been transferred or will be transferred or has been sold, and if all of that structure remains, that now means there is a new situation, because the playing club, if you like, is not in administration. And so, yes, we went to the Football League to meet them on Monday. We've had serious talks with them. We had further communication with them yesterday. As a result of that, we expect them to be talking to Joy Sepala, who is, of course, the person who pulls all the strings, and the person who makes the decisions. Make no mistake about that. And we will see what comes of that. So, yes, it was when it was in administration. Now, if we are to accept, and we haven't yet accepted, but if that structure of deals that Mr. Appleton, the administrator, has carried through, if those are to remain, and they can't, and that isn't certain yet, then, yes, it's a different entity, and yes, we are quite happy to talk to them.
Is there anyone out there who could mediate in all of this? And a lot of people have said this is what now needs. I mean, we talked to Tim Fisher on the show recently, and I asked him the question whether he would be prepared to sit down and renegotiate and talk to you and talk to the other people involved. I mean, he is quite clearly, whether it's his pride that's hurt, but he's quite clearly not prepared or not happy to, or doesn't want to talk to anybody. He doesn't want to. He said that's gone. That's not going to happen anymore. And some people agree with that, some people don't. But quite clearly, fans are sat in the middle, Peter, and they're saying, for goodness sake, all we want out of all of this is to be able to go and see the Sky Blues play in the city. Sort it out. Is there anybody that can mediate this now, or has it gone too far?
My family is exactly the same. My wife is a Diamond Club member. All the trustees are lifelong fans. We feel this in exactly the same way as everybody else does. The heartache, the pain. And much as I really wouldn't want to have to sit with Mr. Fisher for a lot of reasons, put that to one side. You have to. There are bigger things at play. And I'm sure, he comes over as quite an intelligent man, but those statements that he wouldn't sit and talk with people, those are the statements of an unintelligent man. And also a very selfish man, because, this isn't about the individuals who have to sit round a table. It's about getting the Sky Blues back in, and you have to bury things like that. Whether it needs a mediator, I don't think so. I think that the deal is very, very simple.
But the relationship is broken. I mean, the deal is almost it's inconsequential now, Peter, because the relationship is so bad between the two sides that it doesn't matter whether the deal is the best deal in the world. It's the relationship that's broken, isn't it? How do we fix the relationship?
But surely people have to be grown up. You have to put those sorts of things to one side. If he can't do it, then get someone else to do it. Get Steve Waggett to do it, or get Joy Sepala to do it. But she's the one who makes the decisions.
But you hear what you say? I mean, fans will be going, this window's just not getting anywhere, because you're saying, yeah, you're right, we'd have to be grown up about it, and it's Cece who needs to be grown up. But
let him come. Well, not. If he doesn't want to, let Joy Sepala. She's the one who'll have to make the decision anyway. So, as we found before, when we talked to him, he then goes off to Ms. Sepala, and she makes the decision, and then we move on or not. But I'm very clear. there are people around whose good offices could not act as a mediator, but could act as a facilitator, and that's around. And I hope that over the next few days, those offers will get through, and it's then up to Mr. Fisher, and if it's pride or if it's something like that, then let's all be grown up.
Tell me about the future of the Ricoh then. I mean, can ACL survive if the club aren't playing football there? And then that's not going to happen. I mean, you can't survive on a Bruce Springsteen concert every year, can you? Or, a couple
It'd be very nice if we had a Bruce Springsteen concert every year.
Yeah, I don't think he's got any plans to do that. So, in all seriousness, though, what does the future look like? It's got costs there. It's a big stadium. What's going to happen to it?
One of the things that we really want is the Sky Blues back in playing, but it is only 23 days a year. As everybody knows, we have a joint venture with Compass. It's not, as Mr. Fisher said, we haven't sold the catering rights. We're absolutely actively involved. We have 77% of the company. That company is the third most profitable element in Compass's Sport and Leisure division, and that includes Cheltenham, Twickenham, the Oval, where there are other joint venture companies, Goodwood, and so on. And I'm afraid the reality is, if you take out the turnover of the football club from that, we're still the third most profitable unit within Compass. So, yes, it'll be tight. Yes, we've got a year or so where we have to look around, we have to think again, how do we use that resource for the people of Coventry? We have a plan B, we've been working on it for some time. However, we've not moved into any kinds of contracts, because what we really want to see is the Sky Blues playing there. If we were a straightforward commercial company based in somewhere in West London, not a million miles from the American Embassy, if we were that, we wouldn't have been talking. We would have changed as soon as the money went out of the escrow in the summer of last year. They wouldn't have completed the season had we been a normal business. We're not a normal business. Because it's a charity and the City Council, and we have an absolute clear understanding that the Sky Blues should play in Coventry. They're an incredibly important part of the warp and weft of the city. The move to... It's very difficult. I've heard lots of people talking about it and trying to express what they feel. And to me, it's rather like a close cousin dying. It's not immediate family. It's not that. It's not but it is a close cousin. It's someone you love, someone who's part of your life, being taken away. That's why we have carried on and will carry on.
And the Football League, people have been very critical of the Football League's role in all of this, and a lot of people have said that it hasn't been as proactive as it should have been. It's been a very passive role throughout as well. You've met with the Football League, haven't you? What's the latest, and what are your thoughts on what the Football League has done and hasn't done?
I think we all had... And before we got involved in talking to them, we all had the idea that they were rather like a regulator. They're not. The Football Association is the regulator of football. All the Football League are doing are trying to run a competition. And so everything, all their decisions and everything around keeping their competition running.
Although they have powers as a result of that, don't they? I mean, the FA grant them a licence to run that. And you said it's not like a normal business, and in a normal business, the Football League wouldn't have any say in how businesses are run, but they do, and they do have powers. They have the power to intervene. They have the power to decide things as well in all of this, and they haven't been able to take those decisions.
They have a choice, and in every single bit of rule, there's a get-out clause, exceptional circumstances, and they can call anything exceptional circumstances, and so. They are threatened by lawyers, not yet by us, but they may be. But certainly they have by SISU. Their aim is to ensure that the competition goes forward, and really they will bend over backwards to keep that going and to keep the league going with its existing members. And they will use the rules to ensure that happens, is my view.
Have the council done enough? I mean, they've been startlingly quiet throughout all of this, and I know when we've talked to them, they've said that they felt that because of things that were happening behind the scenes, that they felt that they had no choice and they were waiting for various things to happen. But I mean, the fact remains that they've been startlingly quiet throughout all of this. Are they doing enough, do you think?
You're being very careful and very professional.
I don't like prison food.
I'm very professional.
But do you know what? But it is. I mean, this is. We sit here day in, day out, and I've just had a tweet this morning from a bloke called Ryan, who, I don't know what he's listening to, but he's saying, "Oh, here we go again, more anti-Sisu tosh." We sit here and we try and play a straight bat and not take sides, and we've been very careful not to take sides. We report the facts as they happen, as we see them. And people will interpret that however they will. But the fact remains that there are a number of players in here who some have been more vocal than others, and the council has been one of the ones that haven't been very vocal at all. Could they have done more? Should they have done more?
I think there's a real problem for them because, as you alluded, there are things going on behind. The judicial review. There is a major claim by Sisu and its associated network of companies that they have behaved in a way that is not proper. The charity's been named as an interested party. ACL has been named as an interested party. So our lawyers have looked through it. The charity's lawyers have looked through it. And apart from all the inaccuracies and the bits that are missing from email trails that actually change the sense of it, things like that, they don't believe that it has legs. However, if you're a public authority and you've been threatened with something like that, you then go into a kind of lockdown. The councillors have to be quiet, the officers can't say anything, because they are perhaps opening up the council to risk. From looking at it from the charity's point of view, we don't think that there is any risk, but then we're not the people who are being hammered. So I think it's completely understandable. But certainly as a partner to the charity in ACL, we have, as far as we're concerned, a very good partner. We've been going through all of this now, and we haven't fallen out. We've got different interests, and we haven't fallen out. So I think they've done a good job.
Final point: what does the future look like then? Do you think we'll start next season playing away games at Northampton? Is that going to happen now?
We're going to carry on busting a gut to get them in Coventry. I really can't guess. I really can't. There's so much that is likely to happen over the next couple of weeks. I wish I could make my life a lot easier. And I could perhaps go on holiday without fear of being hit by the phone and emails all the time.
Just want to clear one thing up. You weren't suggesting for a minute that Tim Fisher wasn't an intelligent man, were you? You said that his actions... could be construed as the acts. I mean,
he appears to be an intelligent man, but if he's just going to be dog in the manger, that is not intelligent. And so, no, I think he's an intelligent man.